When we think about a master in any field, really, like a brilliant physicist or, say, a top-tier surgeon, we generally expect them to have, well, the most impressive diplomas hanging on their wall.
Oh, yeah, for sure. We expect them to be the product of elite institutions, surrounded by textbooks and peer-reviewed journals.
Right, intense academic rigor. We like our experts to have a pedigree.
It gives us a sense of security, honestly. I mean, you want to know the people holding the secrets of the universe have been rigorously tested and categorized by a formal academy?
Exactly. But then, and this is what's so crazy, you step into the strange, fascinating world of 19th century occultism, and suddenly that entire academic hierarchy is just flipped completely upside down.
Oh, totally inverted.
Right. What if I told you that one of the most highly educated, sophisticated thinkers of 19th century France, a man who basically spent his entire life building this fiercely complex system of high magic, actually believed that an illiterate, uneducated shepherd understood the fundamental laws of the universe vastly better than a university doctor?
I mean, it is the absolute definition of subverting the establishment.
It really is. And that massive contradiction is, well, it's our exact mission today. We are doing a deep dive into the philosophy of Eliphas Levi, specifically looking at Key 1, Unit 5 of his curriculum, to uncover this incredible tension in his work.
Yeah, it's such a rich text.
It is. We're going to unpack the clash between this natural, almost romanticized mysticism of the uneducated and the absolute agonizing willpower required to actually practice high magic.
And, to truly grasp why Levi is making such radical claims, we really have to look at the atmosphere of the world he was living in at the time.
Right, set the stage for us.
So 19th century France was deeply, deeply obsessed with the philosopher Auguste Comte and this whole idea of cold empiricism.
Like hardcore rationality.
Exactly. Science for the establishment was all about the strict classification of dead matter. I mean, it was the peak of the Industrial Revolution, right?
Mhm.
A time of chopping the natural world up into measurable, lifeless, predictable parts. Everything just had to be quantifiable.
And Levy, who was a defrocked Catholic deacon, by the way, he was having absolutely none of that.
No, he fundamentally rejected that entire worldview. Levi was steeped in this ancient idea that the entire universe is, well, it's a single, interconnected living organism.
Like the Renaissance thinkers.
Exactly. He studied all those Renaissance guys who saw these hidden sympathies between stars, plants, the human mind. So when he looked at the hyper-rational academic approach of his day, which he very bluntly called dry sophistry, by the way.
Dry sophistry, I love that.
It's so good. But he saw it as a tragedy. For Levi, the universe wasn't just this collection of dead data to be memorized by some pedant in a dusty library. Yeah. It was a living, breathing, symbolist poem.
Wow. A symbolist poem.
Science, in its truest form, was the holy kingdom of absolute reality. It wasn't a spreadsheet.
Okay, so if the academic approach to knowledge, memorizing textbooks, dissecting frogs, passing exams, if all of that is fundamentally flawed in Levy's eyes, how does one actually learn the secrets of reality?
Right, that's the big question.
Yeah, like how do you read this living symbolist poem if you aren't supposed to study the grammar?
Well, he makes a remarkably bold claim to answer that. He says, and I quote, "It is important that the mage knows the secrets of the science, but he can know them through intuition without ever having learned them."
Wait, knowing something without ever having learned it?
Yeah.
That sounds completely paradoxical. I mean, if you haven't learned it, where on earth is the information coming from?
So he is invoking a very specific ancient concept here, the Platonic idea of anamnesis,
Anamnesis. Okay.
which basically translates to the unforgetting of the soul. For Levi, true knowledge isn't something imported from the outside world.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, you aren't an empty vessel just waiting to be filled with facts poured in by a university professor. The knowledge is excavated from within yourself.
From within.
Right. And the logic behind this is the concept of the microcosm and the macrocosm. If the individual human being perfectly mirrors the structure of the entire universe, then the blueprint of the cosmos is, well, it's already inscribed inside you.
I see. And the mechanism to access that internal blueprint is what he calls intuition.
Exactly.
But we should probably clarify that term because today, if someone says to you, oh, I had an intuition, they usually mean they had a weird gut feeling about a blind date or, I don't know, they guessed C on a multiple choice test and just got lucky.
Right, right. A hunch. But Levi is using the word in its strict original Latin sense.
Which is?
Intuition derives from the Latin intuere, which means to look at, to gaze upon, or to contemplate inwardly.
So it's an active gazing.
Yes, this is not some vague emotional guesswork. It is a direct spiritual perception.
Yeah.
You are intentionally turning the gaze inward to read the blueprint that is already there.
And he contrasts this direct, unified spiritual gaze with what he calls the fractured discursive intellect of the academic.
Yeah, the discursive mind is the one that is constantly analyzing, separating, categorizing.
Mm.
It is so busy chopping the world into tidy, manageable little boxes that it completely fails to see the underlying cosmic medium.
What occultists call the astrolight, right?
Exactly, the astral light in its wholeness. Levy was subtly mocking the academic theologians of his youth here. They mastered the absolute, literal letter of the law, but in doing so, they completely choked out its vital spirit.
You know, it makes me think of an analogy. The discursive academic mind Levy is criticizing.
Right.
It's like trying to understand a beautifully complex symphony, but instead of just sitting back and listening to the music, you are staring at the sheet music with a magnifying glass and a grammar book.
Oh, that's a perfect way to put it.
Right. You're isolating every single quarter note. You're categorizing every rest, measuring the exact distance between the staff lines. You have all the data, but you completely miss the music.
I'd even take that analogy a step further.
Okay, let's hear it.
Levy would argue that the academic is so obsessed with the grammar of the sheet music that they actually become deaf to the sound entirely.
Oh, wow. Deaf to the sound.
Yeah, they lose the capacity to hear the music because they have trained their brain only to process those isolated data points.
Hmm.
If you try to read a living, breathing symbolist poem with a grammar book, you will miss the actual meaning every single time.
Okay, so if the academic is deaf to the music because they've chopped the world into tiny pieces, who actually hears the symphony? I mean, who sees the whole picture?
Well, Levy tells us very clearly where to look, and spoiler alert, it isn't the Sorbonne.
I figured as much.
He points to hermits, people who live in the continual contemplation of nature, and to uneducated shepherds.
Shepherds.
Yeah. He states plainly that these figures often divine the harmonies of nature vastly better than doctors whose senses are skewed by the sophistries of schooling.
Man, he is throwing massive shade at the hyper-rationalists of Paris. Calling their life's work sophistries is incredibly biting.
It is, and he chose that word very deliberately. It traces back to the ancient Greek sophists.
Right, the debaters.
Yeah. They were rhetoricians known for selling clever illusions and persuasive arguments for coin, rather than actually tracking absolute truth. Levy felt these doctors dissected the world with their clever arguments and ended up with nothing but a heap of cold meat.
Just dead matter. Okay, let's look at the specific figures he elevates instead, the hermit and the shepherd, because there is some heavy intentional etymology operating here, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely. Let's take hermit first. The word comes from the Greek eremites, meaning a person of the desert.
The desert.
Right. And in the mystical traditions Levy studied, this implies a literal purging of unnecessary vessels. You have to empty yourself out to make room for the influx of divine light.
Like what Kabbalists would call the limitless light.
Exactly, the Ein Sof Or. And Levy isn't talking about someone taking a casual weekend hike in the woods to clear their head, He means profound isolation.
Like the solitary alchemists, like Nicholas Flamel, who required total isolation to observe the great work. They needed to escape the psychic noise of the mob.
Yes. The word contemplation in this context carries the heavy weight of the Greek theoria, looking at the divine. By staring deeply into nature without analyzing it to death, they are witnessing the dynamic, unfolding manifestation of the divine will.
They're tuning in.
Exactly. They align their own microcosmic rhythm with the macrocosmic pulse of the universe.
And I imagine the shepherd fits into this exact same framework.
100%. The Greek root for shepherd is poimen, which links directly to the Hermetic poimandres, the shepherd of men.
Right, representing the pure, divine intellect.
Yes. So when Levy calls them uneducated, he obviously means it as a profound compliment. They are free from that petrified scholasticism.
Okay, wait, I have to stop you there for a second.
Sure.
Isn't Levy just romantically idealizing the French peasantry here? Because, I mean, it sounds like this misty-eyed Rousseauian fantasy where if we just throw away our books, move to the country, and pet some sheep, we magically become wizards.
Right.
It feels a little, I don't know, patronizing to the actual struggles of rural life.
No, it's a totally fair critique of 19th century romanticism. But
Right.
if we look at the actual physics of Levy's magical system, this isn't just sentimentality.
Okay.
It's a brutal structural point about how the astral light actually functions mechanically.
All right, well, walk me through the mechanics of that. How does the countryside physically change the way magic works?
Okay, think of the astral light as a universal plastic medium.
Uh-huh.
like a psychic ether that fills all space.
Got it.
Human thoughts, emotions, and willpower constantly create ripples and imprints in this fluid. Now, picture 19th century Paris.
A chaotic mess.
Exactly. It is a swirling industrial vortex of hundreds of thousands of conflicting human wills. You have people agonizing over debt, politics, ambition, romance.
Right.
It creates a turbulent, chaotic storm in the astral light. The countryside, the Pagus, functions mechanically as a still pond. It is unsaturated by that chaotic psychic noise.
So the quiet environment literally allows for the steady, undisturbed accumulation of these subtle forces. That makes the environment an absolute prerequisite. I mean, you can't see your reflection in boiling water, right? The water has to be still.
That's a great way to look at it. Furthermore, the uneducated mind of the shepherd functions structurally as a tabula rasa, a blank slate.
Blank slate.
Yeah. When an academic tries to exert their will on the universe, their intent is fractured by 50 competing theories and a deep-seated self-consciousness. They create weak, scattered ripples.
And the shepherd.
A shepherd, unburdened by theory, has a singular practical desire, say, to heal a sick animal. Because their mind is undivided, that raw intent acts as a focused laser beam in the astral light.
Which, perfectly explains why those old operational grimoires like the Grand Albert or the Grimorium Verum were so wildly popular among the rural folks of 19th century France.
Exactly.
They weren't reading those books to debate high-minded theoretical concepts about how the universe emanated layer by layer from a single divine source. They just needed functional magic to cure a heifer or protect their crops.
It is a radical democratization of the occult. Levy is daring to suggest that magical attainment doesn't require an aristocratic lineage, a university pedigree, or an expensive library.
Just focus.
Right. It requires a fierce, silent, undivided attention paid to the living book of nature.
But, okay, if the ultimate goal is simply a blank slate, a mind completely emptied of academic noise and complex theory, why couldn't a Parisian doctor just say, drink half a bottle of laudanum, or go see a stage hypnotist to achieve that exact same empty state?
Wow.
I mean, why spend decades in the desert if you can forcefully blank your mind with a shortcut?
That is the trap Levy spends a significant amount of time warning against.
Yeah.
19th century France was absolutely flooded with these exact shortcuts.
Right, the spiritualism craze.
Yes, this was the era of early pharmacology, of hashish clubs, of animal magnetism, and the hypnotic experiments of Franz Mesmer and Jean-Martin Charcot. And Levy acknowledges that there are certain exceptions. He admits that there are bodily types, sympathetic natures, and nervous system maladies that make someone naturally highly sensitive to the astral light. He even notes that substances can produce states of ecstasy or magnetic sleep.
But he views those induced states with absolute horror, doesn't he?
He views them as profoundly dangerous. Let's just examine the word ecstasy itself.
Okay.
It derives from the Greek ekstasis, which literally translates to a standing outside of oneself.
Standing outside oneself.
For Levy, this is the ultimate hazard. If you use a substance or a trance to stand outside of yourself, who is left tending the shop?
Wow. If you leave the self, your defenses are completely down.
Yes.
We tend to think of phrases like accessing the light as encountering a benevolent, guiding, angelic force. But Levy's conception of the astral light is much darker than that, isn't it?
It is. For Levy, the astral light, which corresponds to the Kabbalistic sphere of Yesod, is not a benevolent guide. It is a blind mechanical force. Yeah, it is a cosmic mirror of illusions that reflects both the sublime and the monstrous with equal indifference. If you open yourself up to it passively, through disease or drugs, you become a porous, helpless vessel for its illusions.
It's basically like leaving your mind's Wi-Fi network completely unsecured, removing the password entirely, and then just walking away from the keyboard.
That's exactly what it is.
Sure, you are technically connected to the grand cosmic internet, but because the operator has led at the seat, any chaotic, monstrous signal floating around in the ether can just jump onto your network and hijack your system.
The drug-induced visionary, or the passive somnambulist, is just a victim of a funhouse mirror. Levy warns that this kind of pharmacological stimulation leads inevitably to general stupefaction and drunkenness.
Stupefaction. Yikes.
Becoming an instrument of divination without recourse to the will is considered a profound spiritual degradation. You aren't mastering the universe. You are being swallowed by it, left entirely at the mercy of chaotic currents.
Okay, so if the passive, drug-induced visionary is just a victim of a funhouse mirror, what is the actual safe mechanism for interacting with these cosmic forces? Because Levy clearly states that magic is real and it can be practiced, but he rejects all the shortcuts.
Right.
So how does the magic actually work without destroying the practitioner?
This brings us to the crucible of the will, which is the ultimate thesis of Levy's entire philosophy. He states unequivocally, generally the power of magic must and can be acquired through perseverance and work.
Perseverance and work. Honestly, that sounds incredibly mundane compared to the romantic image of standing on a mountaintop commanding the stars.
Well, it sounds mundane in English, but the original French word levy used for work changes the context entirely. He used the word travail.
Travail, which has a much heavier, more agonizing connotation than just clocking in for a 9 to 5 shift.
Absolutely. Travail originates from the late Latin tripalium, which was literally a three-staked instrument of torture.
Oh, wow. Torture.
Yeah. True magic, for Levy, isn't a relaxing, intuitive walk in the woods, even if the uneducated shepherd makes it look easy. For the conscious practitioner, it is an agonizing alchemical transmutation of the self.
How does that transmutation actually operate, though? Like, how does forcing yourself through this torture translate to controlling the astral light?
It operates through the absolute crystallization of the human will. The human body naturally wants to be passive.
Sure.
The nervous system constantly seeks the path of least resistance, whether that's the laudanum of the 19th century or whatever modern distraction we reach for today.
Right.
To deny the body those passive impulses, to force the mind into a state of singular, unyielding focus, is literally painful. But that pain, that resistance, generates the energetic friction necessary to command the astral light.
So you have to push back.
Yes, the magus must dominate their own nervous impulses so completely that their will becomes a physical force in the ether.
So the magus refuses to be the passive receiver. They insist on being the active operator.
Always the operator, never the operated upon. And this explains the strict caveat he places on those dangerous substances.
Oh, he does allow them sometimes.
He concedes that substances can be used to access the astral light, but with a massive qualification, only in carefully calculated proportions and in very exceptional circumstances.
So he applies mathematical laboratory rigor to the mysticism.
Exactly. By subjecting these agents to strict mathematical rigor, the magician reasserts their dominance over the material. The will remains firmly in control.
That makes sense.
The intellect isn't completely discarded, it's repurposed. Instead of chopping the universe into dead pieces, the intellect serves the will, ensuring the practitioner doesn't fall into that passive general stupefaction.
Wow, it is such a fascinating journey. We started this deep dive looking at a profound contradiction. Lovey tearing down the dry sophistry of the Sorbonne doctors, arguing that the pure, intuitive gaze of the uneducated shepherd is vastly superior to the fractured intellect of the academy.
Right, because the shepherd's undivided mind acts as a focused laser in the quiet countryside.
But then we saw the massive danger of trying to artificially recreate that blank slate through passive shortcuts. Magnetic sleep, chemical ecstasy. They leave the mind completely unsecured, turning the practitioner into a helpless puppet of the astral light's illusions.
Which is terrifying.
It really is, which ultimately culminates in Levy's core requirement, the agonizing conscious travail of the true magus, the absolute refusal to surrender the active human will.
And, it leaves us with one final thing to consider. Libby fundamentally believed that the psychic noise of 19th century Paris, a swirling, chaotic vortex of conflicting human wills, scattered the subtle forces of magic so violently that the hermit literally had to flee to the countryside just to perceive reality.
Yeah?
Look at our modern world.
Right.
We don't just have the noise of a physical city. We exist within a digital landscape that is a literal 247 vortex of conflicting human wills, algorithms, and nonstop psychic noise designed specifically to bypass our active intellect and trigger our passive nervous system.
We carry that turbulent storm in our pockets everywhere we go.
Exactly. If Levy thought a 19th century city was too distracting to allow for true intuition, we really have to ask ourselves, does our modern digital environment make Levy's active, disciplined human will not just an occult pursuit, but an absolutely necessary daily survival skill?
A terrifying but incredibly necessary question. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Levy's work. Keep questioning the noise around you, keep gazing deeply, and above all, keep exercising your own will.